We looked into some rainwater collection technologies and that, even a model on the base, and really with our limited budgets, it just wasn't a possibility. There are USDA representatives based out of Kabul looking at other types of water management principles that they look at in the country, but as I mentioned earlier, irrigation is really their only, they flood irrigate everything. It's the one picture that I brought up of the colots. They literally would have probably 2 or 3 foot mounds of dirt surrounding their field, and they pull up with a water truck, open the back of that truck, and flood the field. And that's how they irrigated everything. And the entire year I was over there, I saw no other type of infrastructure whatsoever. Go ahead, Michelle.
Actually I have 2 questions. What are some of the specific techniques you tried to get across to them that would benefit them? And how receptive do people seem to be to learning for us to come in and teach them these things?
Well, and I think that was probably the biggest misconception for those of us who had not been before. By the way, I mean, pictures still do not do it justice. To say you're going over there into a new environment is a drastic understatement. But for those of us training, whether it was at Purdue, we all had these grand ideas. I remember my favorite one was, well, they've got a lot of animals. Let's find a lot of their manure. Maybe we can help turn some of that into biogas and have some electricity for that. And yeah, that's a great pipe dream. Maybe 50 years from now. But those type, I mean, the hardest part was taking off our American technology hats. But I will remind you, cell phones are the primary mode of communication there. Everyone has a cell phone, but no one has electricity. So a lot of backwards technologies through that. But I will say other basic tactics, like grain storage, I think was a very, very highly welcomed. Their typical mode of storage for the winter, they bury their grain over the winter in a pot outside their home. And so we introduced them to some polymer bags that Purdue had developed. And they called them triple storage, triple polymer bags, if there's another acronym for them. But, so it was a new technology that was developed actually for chickpeas in Africa that Purdue used, but we showed them through some technological uses. The hardest part was sourcing those bags. Of course, we could bring them from the United States, but we were looking elsewhere in Afghanistan that they could really find some of that.
Do they raise enough food in that country to feed themselves, or do they have to have it brought in?
They've been surviving, and that's, right now, I would say they do raise enough to feed themselves. Japan, the first thing that comes to mind about food being brought in from overseas was right after the tragic earthquake and everything in Japan. We happened to visit a school that had all of this United Nations food, and it said a gift to the people of Afghanistan from the people of Japan. So it's been a net importer of food without question, but I would say that's mainly just due to the struggles that they've had. I mean, the internal conflicts just limiting that. And a couple people earlier in the breakfast line asked about opium and poppy and all that. Afghanistan's been known for that through the years. In the province we were in, because of federal subsidies and encouragement, there was no poppy or opium. They received to the tune of about $1.5 million a year. The province, a host province, receives that. The governor has that at his spending discretion into his general fund as a reward for being a poppy-free province. So getting the poppy off the fields there allowed for them to grow, as I said, primarily wheat was their staple crop. Maggie? How many times a day did I get to eat? Oh, 3 full meals. That's one good thing. The Army especially knows how to feed their troops. We had good buffet breakfast. It was, if I could sum it up briefly, I'd say it was definitely quantity over quality. But none of us were starving over there. I think a few of us even gained a little weight. Anything else?
There's been a lot of progress in financial corruption, as people are trying to help the country and stuff. Are you seeing a lot of progress in that area? I know you told us one gentleman was locked up, but I mean, is there hope that, the funding mechanisms and things can really make a difference to the masses versus
I'll say the biggest struggle with that is continuity of effort. I mean, it takes civilians and those willing to say, I will give 5 years of my life. Personally, 1 year over there was plenty long for me. It would be hard, I think. Some family members might frown upon me looking to go back, but it takes much longer than a year. When you talk agriculture, when you talk development and changing the country, these should be measured in decades. So when you look at corruption, especially in their federal government, these are tribal leaders who have been around for 10 or 20 years and control an entire province. So it takes good actors, and unfortunately, those are also the ones, those provincial governors who are willing to call out the corrupt officials are usually the ones who are first assassinated. And I'm optimistic that it's headed in the right direction, but it takes more people willing to stand up and say, I will give a couple years of my life to go over there and work towards that effort.
You touch on their medical services over there, local doctors, clinics, hospitals?
There's essentially none. That was one of the most well-received parts of our team. I failed to put that on a slide, but we did have one registered nurse on our team, Mary Receiver. She's from the Indianapolis area. I believe she was a staff sergeant at the time, and she was a registered nurse in the civilian world. And each and every mission we'd go out with Sergeant Receiver, nurse, and also one of our team medics. And while the rest of us would be out doing agricultural work, they were on the humanitarian side of the operation, passing out medicines, everything. And while it was always very well received, we were also careful that oftentimes we'd get grown men coming up complaining of a stomachache just to talk to the American women. So we had to kind of keep a close eye on that.
Why don't you explain about the tracers? That was kind of neat.
This photo, thank you. This photo was actually taken on July 4th. We were out for a couple missions that day, and part of my role, I guess I didn't even explain that, I was the agricultural marketing officer on the team, but also served in public affairs with that. And so on July 4th, we actually hosted a delegation of 3 senators, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and let's see the third. I should remember that, but we won't worry about him now. We actually went up, and the senators had already been delivered to their next base, and a friend who was the helicopter pilot that day said, hey Bart, why don't you come with us? We're going to give the base a little 4th of July celebration. And so sure enough, we're this Black Hawk's wingman in the bird directly west of it, and over the headset they said, LT, you ready? LT, you ready? I said, yes, sir. We'll fire away. And so they gave a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! They said, Happy 4th of July. And so I started snapping the photos right there. So we had an American 4th of July celebration over the host province. Ellen?
Another fun story, one of my favorite stories is when you went out and had to sing Johnny Cash with them, with the kids. You just tell them that story and how the kids were so
receptive. The children were definitely the most receptive and welcoming. The adults who had seen decades of aid workers come and go, and that was always their biggest concern. When we go into a village, and adults will say, well, the Americans are here again. Or, you'll be in, and then you'll be out. And but the children, their innocence proved. And they'd come right up to you. I think the specific example Ellen's mentioning, they had never seen an iPhone. So I had my iPhone with me and started playing a couple of different songs through iTunes and was playing them with that. And at the time, and then I even showed them the video camera portion of the iPhone. Had it out, and this young child's looking through everything, trying to figure out what's going on. And the next thing you know, they were talking to the interpreter, and most of the children speak pretty good English. And they said, music, music, music. They wanted to play some more music. And so before you know it, we've got Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire playing. And these kids, it's a very formal environment as well. The adults hardly ever smile with that. So here I am in these kids' mind, a grown man singing and dancing Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire. And I don't know if that was any good foreign relations expert advice, but it worked for us.
Where are the pictures and video of that?
Oh, that's for a later presentation. Anything else?
You mentioned in showed some chickens on there. Is that the extent of their livestock industry, or do they have any livestock there?
I mean, I'd say the average farm would have 10 chickens. If they were wealthy, they'd have a little cattle. I mean, you didn't see any dairy whatsoever, but they'd have some beef cattle. And once again, though, that was not, there was no industry per se. It would be an individual cow on a farm, and some of the meagerest livestock you've ever seen. Skin and bones everywhere. Ellen, Libby, oh.
Were the kids nice to you?
The kids? Oh, they were really nice. We made a lot of good friends. And as I said, they weren't used to adults being real friendly back to them. And so whenever they come up and ask us for something, we're quick. A lot of missions, we'd carry a little extra candy or some gloves and scarves, coloring books, anything we could to kind of spread goodwill for the people. And the kids were very nice. It was a good reminder of all of you great kids back at home. I liked playing with them. Go ahead, Rob.
I can remember when this war first started, President Bush making the comment that this war is unlike any other war we've ever fought, and not to expect it to be over soon. Are we expecting too much to be leaving this country prematurely?
I won't speculate on my personal opinion with that, but I will say the United States cannot do it alone. We need other allies. At the time we were there were about 30 other countries represented, but I would have to guess at least 90% of that expenditures falling on the United States people. And to leave there currently with the drawdown, all I'll say is I hope it's not a political measure to get us out of there, and that some of those with the decision-making capabilities know more than us that are looking in from the ground effort, and they're seeing the big picture and moving forward. But the Afghan National Army, those folks that we have that will be responsible for providing the security, have made leaps and bounds in their training, and they're working alongside it. The Special Forces, I think that's really the way ahead. The large brigade-sized army, thousands of men, they're taking up space and using resources there. The specialized forces that can go in, train the Afghan forces, I think that you'll definitely see a major push there.
His question made me think of a follow-up. Will teams such as yours still continue over there even after the bulk of our military has left, or will they leave when the military leaves?
To my knowledge, at least Team 5 will go. Indiana originally committed to 7, and I think that has since been condensed to 5. And also, they're looking at a little different composition for teams moving forward to involve more civilian experts. I think one of the last conversations I had with Purdue, they were looking at actually putting a couple American Indiana extension agents on these teams. And so you'll see that, but more land-grant institutions such as Purdue, Michigan State, those type of universities will make up the bulk of the team, and the military folks would just provide the security. Well, if there isn't anything else, I thank you all for your time, and to all the staff, Greg, Dave, Krista, all of you who made today possible. This was a great honor to have a chance to give you all a glimpse into our year over there. Thank you once again.
I just remember seeing your interview on TV, how you surprised your dad coming out of the field of corn, and your comments. Did you get enough Indiana sweet corn?
I did. I'm ready for it again this summer, though.